Shots fired! Shots fired! Shots fired!
You promised me you like me. You promised. A head, R tail. Okay. This is tail, right? Yeah. So really.
New this morning here, we just learned a former San Antonio police officer is now out of jail on bond. He's facing charges for shooting a teenager outside a local fast food restaurant.
And also new this morning, we're getting a first look at the officer's mugshot, former officer, in fact. James Brennan was fired just over a week ago. Body camera video shows the officer unloading on a car as 17-year-old Eric Cantu drives away. Now the police chief says that shooting.
On October 2nd, 2022, a frightening incident took place in San Antonio, Texas. It all started when a rookie police officer named James Brennan made a significant mistake while attempting to confront a suspect on his own. Officer Brennan had only been on the force for 7 months, and the situation quickly escalated beyond his control. The incident occurred around 10:45 p.m. at a McDonald's in north central San Antonio. The police had received a call about a disturbance at the fast food restaurant, so Officer Brennan was dispatched to the scene. Here's where things took an unexpected turn. When Brennan arrived, he mistakenly believed that he had spotted a stolen car that had been involved in a getaway the day before. However, as it turns out, the car was not connected to the disturbance call, and investigations later revealed that it was not actually stolen, even though its registration plates didn't match the vehicle. Unaware of this information, Officer Brennan became nervous, assuming it was the stolen car he was looking for, and he called for backup to assist him with the situation. However, instead of waiting for backup to arrive, he approached the car moments later, opened the driver's side door, and found 17-year-old Eric Cantu inside. As the car door remained open, Cantu made a sudden decision to reverse the vehicle and try to escape. According to Captain Elisa Campos's report of the incident, the open door struck Officer Brennan, causing him to step back. Instead of attempting to de-escalate the situation, Officer Brennan chose to shoot at the vehicle while the young driver was pulling away in reverse. After the driver shifted gears, getting ready to escape, the officer fired at least 5 additional shots at the car.
Shots fired! Shots fired! Shots fired!
Later, Cantu and his girlfriend, identified as Emily Pruello, were discovered 1 block away from the McDonald's parking lot. Subsequent police reports confirmed that Officer Brennan had violated his training and police procedures when he approached the car. The repercussions for Officer Brennan were severe. He was dismissed from the police force just a few days later, and a grand jury indicted him on 2 counts of aggravated assault by a public servant and 1 count of attempted murder. The first aggravated assault charge was for shooting Cantu, while the second was for firing in the direction of Cantu's female passenger, Emily Pruello. The attempted murder charge was related to the shooting of Cantu himself. If Brennan is found guilty, he could face a lengthy prison sentence.
It was a failure for one individual police officer. It had nothing to do with our policies. Policies did not allow that. Our training does not teach that. So this was a fail for one particular police officer. And here we are as a result of that fail.
Amid the serious accusations, Brennan's lawyer, Nico LaHood, expressed concern about a rush-to-judgment attitude. LaHood argued that Brennan's side of the story hadn't been fully heard yet and anticipated that more information would come to light, providing further clarity on the incident. As a result of being shot by Brennan, Cantu suffered injuries to his stomach, diaphragm, lungs, liver, bicep, and forearm. He had to be on life support for nearly 6 weeks following the shooting, and he had to undergo a tracheotomy. In December, Cantu Jr. faced additional complications that required him to be hospitalized again for a few days. Cantu Jr.'s father, Eric Cantu, acknowledged that his son would need weeks, months, and even years of rehabilitation, but he showed great determination in his recovery. The family's attorney, Ben Crump, known for handling high-profile cases of police brutality, expressed relief at the indictments. He expressed gratitude for the overwhelming support the family received during Cantu Jr.'s fight for survival and their pursuit of justice. With the recent indictments, they feel they are one step closer to achieving the justice they seek. Bexar County District Attorney Joe Gonzalez stated, "Justice means making sure that man never works as a member of law enforcement, making sure that man never has a gun and a badge." The criminal trial against Brennan commenced in June 2023. Courtney Brown and Christy Wilson, two police officers on traffic duty, witnessed a speeding driver named Sarah Webb zooming past them. They decided to pursue her, and after a chase, they successfully signaled her to stop. Officer Brown approached Sarah's vehicle and scolded her for driving recklessly on a wet road due to the rain. Sarah explained that she was running late for her job at a hair salon, but Officer Brown was not willing to accept her explanation. Brown requested Sarah's driver's license, instructed her to remain in the car, and then walked back to her own police vehicle.
And you know how fast you were just going, ma'am?
I'm so sorry, I'm late for work.
Now, things take a questionable turn, and here's what we can gather from the conversation recorded on Officer Brown's body camera. It turns out that her radar gun wasn't functioning properly, so she couldn't measure Webb's speed accurately. Adding to that, Officer Brown couldn't run a check on Webb's license for some reason. In this uncertain situation, Brown called for backup, and while waiting, she and Officer Wilson discussed what action to take next. Initially, they considered arresting Webb for reckless driving, but then Officer Wilson proposed a different approach. Shockingly, they decided to leave the woman's fate up to chance by flipping a coin. On the body camera footage, we can hear Officer Wilson saying,
Who's that? A head, R tail. Okay. This is tail, right? Yeah. So really, 20.
Despite the result of the coin toss, the first officer still decided to proceed with arresting Sarah Webb, using the police code 23, which indicates making an arrest. The officers agreed to charge Webb with driving too fast for the road conditions and reckless driving. According to Officer Brown, Webb was driving at a speed exceeding 80 miles per hour on a wet road where the maximum speed limit was 45 miles per hour. Once a video of the incident emerged online, it prompted an internal investigation by the Roswell Police Department into the officer's actions. During the investigation, Officer Wilson and Officer Brown were placed on administrative leave. A few weeks later, both officers were dismissed from their positions due to their unethical conduct during the arrest of Sarah Webb. Eventually, the charges against Webb were dropped. Roswell Police Chief Rusty Grant expressed his disappointment, stating that such behavior did not represent the hardworking officers of the Roswell Police Department. He emphasized that he expected higher standards from the police officers, and trivializing such an important decision as an arrest was unacceptable. Roswell Mayor Lori Henry was also deeply disturbed by the incident, expressing shock and offense at the officers' actions. She made it clear that their behavior was inexcusable and unprofessional, and did not reflect the values of the Roswell police officers who protect and serve the community every day. City Administrator Gary Palmer also weighed in on the matter, announcing on Facebook that Roswell would conduct a comprehensive investigation into the police department to address broader issues. He expressed astonishment at the lack of professionalism and compassion displayed by some officers, and asserted that those who do not meet the community's standards would be removed from service.
Shooting 6 days ago led to an angry confrontation tonight with San Francisco's police chief. Dozens packed a town hall meeting demanding answers about why an unarmed suspect was shot to death.
On December 1st, 2017, a new police officer named Chris Samayoa was on his fourth day of duty when he received a distressing call. The call reported an incident in San Francisco City's Potrero Hill neighborhood where a man, identified as Keita O'Neill, had allegedly assaulted a state lottery worker and stolen her government-issued minivan. The suspect had targeted a California state lottery van parked on 23rd Street in the 1800 block. As soon as the police were informed, they initiated a pursuit of O'Neill, who was driving the stolen van. The chase led them into the Alice Griffith public housing development near the intersection of Fitzgerald Avenue and Griffith Street. Eventually, O'Neill came to a realization that he couldn't continue driving, so he abandoned the still-rolling van, which crashed into a fence. He then tried to escape on foot and ran towards an approaching SFPD patrol car. Officer Samayoa was in the passenger seat of his training officer Edric Tollison's car and found himself in the middle of this intense moment, with other patrol cars surrounding O'Neill to block his escape route. As O'Neill moved closer to Officer Samayoa's direction, the officer took out his weapon and fired a shot through the passenger side window, hitting O'Neill and stopping him from further advancing.
The body camera footage released by the San Francisco Police Department late this evening shows the officer drawing his weapon while sitting in the passenger seat of his patrol car. Just as he arrives in front of 42-year-old Keontae O'Neill, the officer opens fire, killing O'Neill.
In a 25-second video, you can see the police officer sitting in the passenger seat of the patrol car. As the car turns the corner, the officer pulls out his gun. At the same time, Keita O'Neill's head can be seen outside the car. The officer fires a shot, breaking the glass of the passenger side window. After the incident, O'Neill was rushed to San Francisco General Hospital, but unfortunately, he was later pronounced dead. It's worth noting that O'Neill did not have any weapon on him at the time of the incident.
Mr. O'Neill then began to run towards the direction of the marked SFPD vehicle, while the van he drove continued to roll forward, striking the fence.
In the video, I'm not sure I see him running toward...
Well, you guys have the video, so I'm sure you're going to look at it frame by frame if you can do that. But look, the reason that we put the video out is for everybody to see what we have at this point.
3 months later, Officer Samayoa faced the consequences of his actions that day. Police Chief William Bill Scott took the decision to terminate Samayoa from the police force, and he had the authority to do so as the officer was still in his probationary period. However, this decision sparked controversy and received a lot of criticism from the police union. Martin Halloran, the president of the San Francisco Police Officers Association, strongly objected to the chief's choice and accused him of being cowardly and politically motivated. Halloran firmly believed that Officer Samayoa had been fired, despite doing what he was trained to do. He pointed out that Samayoa was just a rookie officer on his 4th day of duty when he found himself in an incredibly stressful and challenging situation. According to Halloran, the firing was unnecessary and unjustified, and he defended the officer's actions during the incident.
This is murder. There's no other way to look at this, but it's murder. He should be in jail right now, should not be laying dead dormant.
After a couple of years had passed, in 2020, San Francisco District Attorney Chesa Boudin made a statement emphasizing that police officers would not be above the law under his administration. True to his words, and to offer some comfort to the grieving family, Boudin decided to press charges against Officer Samayoa. The charges included voluntary manslaughter, involuntary manslaughter, assault with a semi-automatic firearm, assault by a police officer, and discharge of a firearm with gross negligence. This was significant because it was the first time the district attorney's office pursued homicide charges against a law enforcement officer. In response to the charges, Tony Montoya, who succeeded Martin Halloran as the president of the San Francisco Police Officers Association, issued a statement. Montoya pledged to support Officer Samayoa and his family during this challenging time, ensuring that the officer's rights were respected, and he received a strong defense against the charges. Meanwhile, the victim's mother, Judy O'Neill, sought justice for her son's death by filing a civil rights lawsuit against the city of San Francisco in 2017. Civil rights attorney John Burris represented Judy O'Neill in the case, highlighting the devastating impact the fatal shooting had on her. The civil case was scheduled for trial in October 2021, but just before that date, the city of San Francisco chose to settle the lawsuit. The Board of Supervisors approved a settlement amounting to $2.5 million. Due to a medical crisis that left Judy physically and mentally compromised, her sister April Green was appointed as Keita O'Neill's guardian during the legal proceedings.
To me, it was an egregious shooting, and it's important for the community to have confidence in the district attorney's office that when shootings do occur, that they evaluate them and determine whether or not the conduct of the officer was appropriate or not. In this case, it clearly was not.
However, the situation took a disappointing turn when it came to holding Officer Samayoa accountable for his actions. The case became tangled in political complexities, and with a change in the district attorney's office, the charges against the officer were dropped. District Attorney Brooke Jenkins, who replaced Boudin, filed a motion to dismiss the case initiated by her predecessor in March 2023. Adding to the complexity, Attorney General Rob Bonta decided not to pursue the prosecution of the homicide charges against Samayoa. In a letter dated May 18th, Bonta expressed his belief that there wasn't enough evidence to prove the charges against Samayoa beyond a reasonable doubt. Consequently, San Francisco Superior Court Judge Loretta Georgi officially dismissed all charges against Officer Christopher Samayoa. "I feel powerless. I'm really worried about the rest of our black and brown men who live in the Bayview area because this is a license to kill," expressed April Green, O'Neill's aunt, after her nephew's case was dismissed. She believes that this decision sets a dangerous precedent, giving officers a pass to use excuses to justify the killing of black and brown men. Back in 1995, Carol Shea, a 25-year-old police officer from the New York Police Department, made a decision that seemed profitable at first, but ended up costing her dearly. She posed for the cover of Playboy magazine with the title, "NYPD Nude." In the photos, Shea was seen in a seductive pose while wearing her police uniform, with her shirt unbuttoned provocatively and her gun holstered to her side. Inside the magazine, there were more pictures of her posing nude and wearing skimpy police uniforms. For this one-time gig with the magazine, Shea received a substantial payment of $100,000. However, her actions soon drew the anger and disapproval of her entire police department.
It demeans the office. I mean, she represents the police department.
After Shea's actions came to light, an administrative trial was conducted to address the issue. She was charged with violating the department's regulations, as her behavior was deemed harmful to the department's image. The judge presiding over the trial stated that the Playboy feature she participated in depicted sex with a New York City cop, and as a consequence, recommended that she lose a month's pay and be placed on probation for a year. However, the police commissioner, William Bratton, strongly disagreed with the judge's recommendation. He believed that Shea was not suitable to remain a part of the police force and decided to terminate her employment. In his statement regarding the incident, Bratton emphasized that the reputation of the New York Police Department was not up for sale, and he was not willing to tolerate anyone who attempted to compromise it. The president of the Police Women's Endowment Association supported the commissioner's decision. On the other hand, Shea argued that the photo shoot she participated in was done during her off-duty time, and she believed that the department was infringing upon her constitutional right to free expression.
My attitude, if you don't agree with what I've done, I'm sorry. But fortunately, I'm entitled to do what I want. And I'm entitled to my opinion, you're entitled to yours.
She decided to take her case to court, hoping to challenge the decision made against her. However, in 1996, the court ruled against her, not supporting her suit. Playboy spokeswoman Diane Stefani also shared her perspective on Commissioner Bratton's decision. She believed that his judgment of Shea's actions might have been influenced by his personal feelings. Diane expressed that looking at pictures of beautiful women in the nude could be a positive and enjoyable experience, but she acknowledged that some people might feel uncomfortable with seeing the human body unclothed. Another police officer, who had been serving for 4 years, expressed her desire to continue her career despite the incident. She believed that her dismissal was undeserved and went through a period of feeling depressed, followed by anger. Following her termination from the police force, Shea pursued a career in acting. She landed a few roles, including one in a film called Silent Prey. Additionally, she made appearances on TV shows like New York Undercover and performed in an off-Broadway play called Grandma Sylvia's Funeral. Eventually, when she grew tired of the acting industry, she switched gears and pursued a career in real estate. Shea expressed her willingness to continue with real estate and, if the opportunity arises, consider acting again. A few years ago, there was a troubling incident involving police detective Tiffany Lipkovich from the Highland Park Police and her co-conspirator Amber Bellamy from the Detroit Police Department. The two officers were caught distributing heroin mixed with fentanyl, which is a highly dangerous and illegal act that completely violates the principles of law enforcement. Complaints were lodged against them, leading to an official investigation. During the investigation, federal agents intercepted and recorded several phone calls between Lipkovich and a confidential informant discussing their drug transactions. In one of these calls, Lipkovich showed pictures of the substances they had to the informant. Bellamy was also heard explaining that some of the items were priced at $1.80 per gram, while others were $100 per gram. Lipkovich inquired about how they were cutting the drugs, to which the informant responded that they were using fentanyl, a highly potent and dangerous synthetic opioid. Lipkovich wasn't surprised by this answer and mentioned that Bellamy would be receiving a shipment of fentanyl from overseas. Later, the confidential informant ended up purchasing a combination of fentanyl and heroin weighing 45 grams from Bellamy. The informant then met with Lipkovich while she was still on duty and in uniform and handed her $300 as compensation for facilitating the drug deal. This solid evidence led to the arrest of both Lipkovich and Bellamy. Lipkovich had been part of the department since 2011, but now she and Bellamy are facing severe consequences. They both pleaded guilty to the charges brought against them, and as a result, they each face a 40-year prison sentence. U.S. Attorney Ison, an acting special agent in charge of the FBI's Detroit division, John B. Howhurst, jointly announced the case. They condemned drug trafficking and addiction, stating that it has caused a crisis in our communities, something that law enforcement partners are acutely aware of. Eisen emphasized that it's an affront to the integrity of the good men and women in law enforcement, as well as the communities they serve, when a sworn officer betrays their oath in such a manner. Instead of upholding her duty to protect and serve, Lipkovich chose to endanger the community by participating in the distribution of a dangerous and deadly drug. Howhurst stated that the FBI will continue working with local and federal partners to safeguard the community from those who seek to harm it. The FBI expressed appreciation for the cooperation of the Highland Park Police Department in this investigation,